Hi, this is Roger Smith of the True Blue Media, and today I have an Irishman, or a Jamaican, I should say, living in Ireland. What a intro that is. Darnell, how's it going?
All good, all good. I
Good.
will try and talk as slowly and as English as possible so you can understand me.
No, no, no. This is all good. So, Darnell, what's nice is that being of mixed parentage and living in Ireland, I have so many questions. So, what year did you leave England, and how old were you to go to Armagh, Ireland?
So I was 7 years of age, so that's 31 years ago.
Uh huh.
Uh, so do your sums, what are we talking there? 93?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep. Around about that.
yeah.
So do you remember? Do you remember your early days when you just landed? What was it like?
I suppose where we live, it's a small town in regards to everyone pretty much knows each other. My family, I suppose, probably would have been well known in the town, and then it became quickly, there's three brown kids now running around um, Armagh, and everyone was sort of inquisitive and wanted to get to know who these new kids were on the block. So I suppose then obviously with the English accents and stuff too, we were probably a bit of a novelty. It would be fair to say. But in regards to how well were taken to, and um, adopted by the community, it's only good memories that I have from that time.
That's nice. That's really nice to hear. A lot of times people think that when they go somewhere and they get stared upon, it's always negative. I've been to places, China, Japan, and stuff, and you'll be shocked. People are just inquisitive more than anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes we have a propensity to take everything a different way. So, what was it like for you as a youngster? I mean, so you've had good experiences, but once you started, 7, 8, 9, 10, now you know you're different. How are you feeling? It's sports day at school, Are you running faster than the other kids, or are you a little bit slower? Talk to me about that.
I suppose that's probably so. In Ireland, they have the main our national sport of GAA, so it's Gaelic games. Within Gaelic games, there's a couple of different codes, you shall say. There's Gaelic football, which is probably a hybrid of soccer and rugby, would be the closest way I can describe it. You then have hurling, which use a stick. So hurling, I suppose, the closest way to describe that would be lacrosse, maybe that people might understand. I actually would have been a pretty good Gaelic footballer, so even though I'd never played it before, I'd never seen it. I quickly started going to the local football team. My uncles would have brought me to training sessions, and I think it was very much a case of because I was so good at football, and because football was such a big thing in Ireland. I would say that the color of your skin sort of quickly went out the window just because you were so good at football and nobody really cared about that side of thing.
Right,
So
right.
so for me, it was a case of um, yeah. Every football game you played, every training session you went to, you were the different person. But at the same time, because I was good at that sport, I probably got a lot of, I suppose, adulation, and people looking to be friends with you, people looking to come over and ask you questions just based off the back of that. So, sport is a massive, what would I say? Um, it's a bridge.
Unifier.
It's a massive. It's a barrier. It breaks down barriers in
Right.
every part of the world, and I suppose it was no difference for me in that I just happened to be lucky enough. to be good at a sport that everyone loved, and then that sort of ingrained me even more into the community, I would say.
So when did you pick that up? And when you said you were good at football, you meant Gaelic football, or were you good at soccer as well?
I have no real memories of playing sport in England before I came to Ireland, so it was just a case of going to your first sort of couple of training sessions for Gaelic football, and then quickly realizing that you were good, and that was it really. I suppose under eights would have been the first age group that kids would have played back then. Kids now play under sixes, but back then it would have been under eight. So I suppose everyone was maybe in um, the same sort of basket anyway, where they were just learning to play as recently as I was. But it just so happened that I happened to be good at it, and we went from there.
Cool, cool. Um, what I want to ask you now is so after secondary school, so did you play Gaelic football in secondary school?
Yeah, so I played Gaelic football from 7 up until 30. So
Wow.
basically it's the under 8s, 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s, and then usually what happens, depending on the club you're associated with, obviously depending how good you are, you can then progress on to seniors, or a lot of kids would sort of drop off in around that 18-year-old age bracket.
So when you went to Ireland, how many of your uncles, so all your uncles were there, probably three, four uncles were in Armagh at the time?
Yep.
Okay, so that must have been busy for you, them taking you, dragging you to football games and stuff.
So again, because of so where my granny lived literally, and I'm not exaggerating this, a 30-second walk to the football pitch. I would have lived probably a 15-20 minute walk, but my primary school was literally again 30 seconds the other way from my grandmother. So it would have been, you would have went to school, you would have went to your granny's after school. My mum would have been working, and then it would have been a case of either someone just dropping you down to the pitch, you going down yourself, and there was always someone on hand to be there, I suppose, and go to your games and stuff.
Cool, cool. So tell me, so you decided to go to Liverpool University, yeah?
I did, yes.
So what was that transition like coming from, now I would say sleepy Armagh, but obviously I've been to Armagh, so I know it's not that sleepy, it's pretty
Yeah,
vibrant.
yeah.
But Liverpool is a totally different animal. So what was it like leaving Armagh and going to Liverpool to go to university?
I suppose it's not as if I had never really been out of Armagh. You know yourself. We would have spent summers in Dallas. We would have spent summers in London. I then have family in San Francisco as well. So I would have been well enough travelled, but um, I suppose the main difference was the nightlife. I'm not gonna lie. Um, the nightlife in Liverpool compared to Armagh is completely night and day. Excuse the pun. And then I suppose it's that was the first time where I had properly left home. Didn't have my mum doing everything for me, and you were out into the big bad world and having to cope on your own.
And it's a Scouser land as well, so it's a little bit different from the rest of England. You know what I mean?
You know what? Liverpool, there's a massive Irish connection to Liverpool. So even though yes, you're in another country, like the flight itself from Belfast to Liverpool is something like 30 minutes. It's you're up in the air and you're down again. But then when you're over in Liverpool, there is such a big Irish community. I still would have played Gaelic football over there. There's that many Irish bars and stuff, and you always will know or bump into people, that are friends of friends over there.
Hmm.
So it's not like it's a massive difference in culture. I think Liverpudlians and Irish are very, very similar in a lot of ways.
You know what's funny is I really thought I could milk the fact that you were different living in Armagh, but I'm getting to realize the fact that you've played football and you're so well known. It's kind of like you're not like it's not like Frank Bruno walking the streets of Armagh for you. It's people know who you are because you play football.
So to for the people who won't know about the sort of background in Ireland, essentially most towns in Ireland have a Protestant side and a Catholic side. So my mum would have been a Roman Catholic. So whenever we moved over, we were brought up as Catholics. So I suppose it was the Catholic side of the town that would have known who I was. They would have known my family and stuff. And then because Gaelic football is a Catholic sport, it would have been, mainly Catholics that would have known who you were. You still would have had then a different side of the town, effectively, different religions that wouldn't have, known who went to the same school as me, and they wouldn't have really known anything about Gaelic football. So I suppose that side of town maybe would have been walking up and down the street wondering who I was, but there wouldn't have been any interaction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. So let's talk a little bit more about you. So, what's your favorite drink, sir?
Alcoholic?
Oh, well, while you mentioned it, I thought you were going to say coffee, but there you go. Yeah, alcoholic, yes. Spirits and then beers, yeah.
Spirits. You know what? It would have been in the past. I would have said, like a rum and coke, but like a Morgan Spice rum, not a
I,
not a Ray nephew, not an Uncle Ray. Um, so a Morgan Spice and coke, but I think as I've got a bit older, I've got a little bit softer, and spirits wise, I will have the odd gin and tonic now. I didn't actually start drinking Guinness until I'm gonna say 3 or 4 years ago, but I now really enjoy a good pint of Guinness. There's good Guinness, there's average Guinness, there's bad Guinness. In Ireland, when you have a really good pint of Guinness, it makes everything else taste like piss. So a really good pint of Guinness is hard to beat.
nice, nice, nice. What about if you were to go to your favorite restaurant? What's your meal of choice?
I'm actually very, very simple when it comes to food. So I find a really, really good beef burger is hard to beat. And that might sound, I don't know, simple. It might sound as if I have a really plain palate. I don't. I will eat and try most foods, but um, I just think a really, really good burger and fries, and no matter what sort of setting you're in, is hard to beat.
Yeah, cheap date they call you. Nice, nice, nice. What about Jamaican meal? What's your favorite?
So I'm gonna have to say my granny's dumpling soup.
What
Um,
what's in it? Is it like a chicken soup?
yeah, so there will be. Well, actually, I think it probably just depends on what meat she has in the fridge.
Okay, okay.
It,
So it's soup,
it,
soup.
it
Yeah.
could be chicken, it could be beef.
Uh-huh.
But the main part of it that I love is the
The boiled dumplings.
boiled dumplings. Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
That's nice
boiled.
to hear. Oh boy, oh boy. And what else? What any other Jamaican meals you can?
again, like really simply, like just um like a chicken or a beef patty in a cocoa bread bun.
Okay, okay. Yeah, patty and cocoa bread. Yes, 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 yes,
So
yes.
it's pure start, pure carbs and starch, but hard to beat. Hard to beat. There's actually again like cocoa bread is very similar to the Irish would call it soda bread.
Okay.
So whenever if I go to London, whatever, I'll always have to get some patties in and some cocoa bread and harlow bread.
Yep.
Just again, it's just the simple things.
Yeah. I don't want you to ever feel as though cocoa bread and patties was ever, yes, it's Jamaican, but I guarantee you, and I may be wrong, someone's going to come in the comments and tell me I'd love. I guarantee you that the patties probably came from a Cornish pasty,
Okay.
and that Irish bread you're talking about was probably the basis for cocoa bread. But, it's really, really weird. I was talking to an Irish friend of mine once, and we were in Barbados in a bar. And he said to me, I was talking to someone, and they used the word Gansey to
Okay. Yeah.
to describe a pullover. So
Yeah.
maybe it's an old Irish word, but I remember in the 70s in Jamaica, people talk about Gansey. So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of influence there, even Irish influence that was really big in the Caribbean at the time.
Listen, I don't know how sort of deep or controversial you want to go, but everyone remembers the signs: no blacks, no Irish, no dogs.
Yes, 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 yes.
So again, there's a lot of similarities in the Irish culture and black culture and Jamaican culture, if you want to call it that. But even if you think of every different culture around the world, especially those where maybe large portions are were in poverty, a bread dish is always going to be one of the most important staples in the diet. It was cheap, it filled the belly, and it was really easy to make.
Yep. When I go to Jamaica now on vacation, if I have a typical Jamaican breakfast, it may be like kidneys, liver, green banana, dumplings, yam, maybe dashi, something like that. Something I like because I love that kind of food. That will last me from 9 a.m. to about 6 p.m. because it is so, it's made for that working man that's
Yeah,
burning them calories. And, we don't burn calories like that anymore.
yeah.
So, Darnell, tell me about an early job that you had that you enjoyed a lot, and tell me about a job you had that you really hated.
I started with a job that I hated. Um, so we used to pick strawberries, and it was literally you were just a kid. You didn't even have probably your national insurance number yet. You were paid below minimum wage, and it was you know early mornings. Still, even in the summer, it was going to be cold and wet and damp because there was still the dew was on the ground, and you're picking slugs off the strawberries and things like that, and it just wasn't for me. Um, one I loved. I actually spent the summer in San Francisco in 2008. So I was how old was I? Roughly 20, 21. Yeah, I would have been 21. And my uncle builds houses in San Francisco, so I was basically his dog's body labor, whatever you want to call it. But that was my first sort of proper experience of hard manual labor. But I loved that work, so I did. And it's probably something that I said if I always had a son, I definitely wouldn't be dissuading them from going down that route, because even nowadays the art of the tradesman and whatever else, it's something that's completely disappearing. And any actual tradesman I know nowadays, they're actually earning really good money, and have their own business and doing pretty well for themselves.
It's funny you say that. With AI and all this new stuff coming out, all of those jobs, those lawyers and doctors and coders and all of that's going to be replaced. But the guy that can, fix cars, or the electrician or the plumber or the builder, he's going to be golden. A couple of years from now, you're going to need those guys badly, especially now that there are so many young men identifying with pronouns and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Who's going to be, I tell my son that, I used to climb 40, 50 meters up on these towers,
Yeah,
you're up there changing antennas and the wind's blowing and you look down and, the cars are like little toys, you know what I mean? And that
yeah,
was stuff that I'd done and not even questioned it. But nowadays, people look at you as though you're, crazy doing, jobs like that. Tell me about a book. What books you read or you enjoy reading now.
Emer, my wife actually takes the piss out of some of the books I read now. I seem to be all into like self help books, and you know how to be a better person, and things like that. I like I like books that essentially make you question things about yourself. One of one of my favorite books, I don't know if you've come across it, is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Beep. I don't know if I can swear
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I've actually read that book actually, and it's actually a really good book.
Yeah,
I
uh,
think I think it's more about. I think people, if you see the title, it may be a little bit offensive because of the swear word at the end, but it's really about that emotional intelligence.
yeah. And not say until I read that book, I wasn't someone who would have been able to say no, but when you read things like that, and it just sort of opens up your mind a little bit more, you do really start to see a bigger picture and on what life sort of is and isn't about, and really and truly what actually matters in life. And you realize that there's very, very, very little that actually properly truly matters.
Yes, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. What about movies?
I love a good comedy.
And your
I
favorite comedian is?
If you're a comedian, um, I really like a Scottish guy called Kevin Bridges.
Okay, I don't know him, but
So,
give us a comedian you like that normal people would like as well. So across the British American spectrum, anybody like that you like?
I like Kevin Hart.
Okay.
No, he's probably becoming a little bit too sort of commercialized now, but
Uh-huh.
I did really like Kevin Hart. I'll watch this a Dave Chappelle special on Netflix.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Kevin Hart would probably be the biggest one. Do you know Peter? You're bound to know Peter Kay, you know?
Um, Probably not. What's he good for? Where is he from?
He's English. Peter Kay is from Bolton,
Okay.
so really working class. Broad Bolton accent, but just really, really relevant. And he's one of those guys that he doesn't have to swear. He doesn't have to be crude to be funny.
Right.
He's just a genuine funny person.
In the late 70s, early 80s, if you saw the comedies that were out, everyone is very sensitive now, but the ones, there was a a racial undertone, but they were just funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think we live in such a protected society now. I think to be a comedian's pretty tough because you can't really say what you want to say. You know what I mean?
absolutely. And I think as you know, I think we live in a world where everyone likes to be offended. Everyone goes out of their way to actually be offended by something when an act when you know when you actually think about it. A comedian's job is to essentially make someone laugh whilst everyone knowing that that's their job, you know. So how hard would your job be if people were then going beyond that and you know believing that everything you're saying was actually personal and something that you actually believed as opposed to they're just trying to make you funny.
Right, right, right. No, I understand. Are you religious?
Um, no,
Okay.
I can't say I'm religious. I believe in fate. I believe in karma. I'm not religious. I think realistically you can believe in planets in the solar system. You can't believe in both. You can't believe in planets and you can't believe in God.
Right,
That's
right, right, right.
um. I also though will admit that it's not lost on me that there will be times where I might find myself saying please God or you know things along those lines. So I do feel a bit of a hypocrite at times because I think religion is something that people just lean on whenever they need it, whenever they're looking to ask for something, whenever they've hit on tough times. Um, but I can't count myself as religious, no.
I think when I look at the landscape myself, I just think that there are. I think as humans, we know so little about what's going on around us. Whatever this simulation is, I bow down to it, but I don't claim to understand it. I think when mortals like us try and tell us what's going to happen, I find that really weird. You know, do you want to be cremated or buried?
I would say buried simply because I think it just gives your family just that sort of resting place to go and visit and spend a bit of time on their behalf. Well, I suppose what the people it depends what to do when you're if you're cremated, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you know, come on. It's just worm fodder, isn't it? The person's not there. I mean, what do you think happens to you when you die?
This is a question that I've actually considered since having a baby. So before having a baby, I wouldn't have really even thought about it, and I would have just thought, that's it. You just fail to exist. Your mind goes blank, and possibly you're just locked in your body with your own mind. That is one thing that I did consider. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
like
yeah, it does.
you're in your body.
Imprisoned.
Your body is dead to everyone else, but your mind is still actually functioning inside your body. But it's just you and your mind for the remainder of time. But since having my daughter, one of the things that and it's actually scary. It has scared me at times because I find myself thinking about it a little bit too much. But I would hate to think that whenever I die, that's it. That I will have absolutely zero connection to or communication ever again with my daughter.
You better start doing some YouTubes then. Every age, you know, give her a little message.
You know what? That is something that I have considered, and again, my wife laughed at me because I said to her one day, you know what? I think I might start recording videos to leave for Ava, and she was like, What are you dying? And I was like, no, but imagine if I died suddenly and she actually wasn't old enough to remember me to realize how much she was loved. I was genuinely considering it, but
Wow, 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 wow. Hey, so tell me, and I want to know about the climb. Tell me about a really low point in your life, Darnell, and more importantly for me is what gave you the strength to climb out of it and overcome. And it's the journey I'm more interested in.
um, a really low point. Like outside of a family member dying, for example, you just mean something personal to me.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I'm pretty lucky in regards to I consider myself someone that doesn't really have many bad experiences in their life. Now, I'll say I don't have many bad experiences. Obviously, my mom left London when I was 7 years of age with three kids back to Ireland. As a single parent or whatever. So our childhood was tough at times, but I suppose something more that a lot more people can relate to. So I suppose like you touched on Liverpool University, but I don't know if you even realise that I dropped out of Liverpool after the first year.
No, I didn't know that.
So there you go. So I went to university and just realised very quickly that it wasn't for me. I probably went for the wrong reasons and because I just thought it was the norm to do. I went to a grammar school over here and you're always sort of told you have to go to university, you have to get a proper career. Um, but I very quickly realised that it wasn't for me. But I was in a position where I didn't really know what to do with myself. Um, and that was hard in regards to you feel like a failure, and up until that point, I suppose I was someone at school always came easy to me. I had the sort of football side of things and, good friends and family around me, but having to suppose tell your mom and tell people that you're dropping out of university probably wasn't the easiest thing that I've ever had to do. Um, but again, I think it's just a case of realizing what actually matters and what doesn't matter. You can do a lot of things in your life, and you think that they're a lot worse than what they actually are for yourself and to other people. But really and truly, it doesn't really matter. Where some people might see dropping out of university as a massive thing, if your mum turns around and says you haven't killed anyone, you haven't hurt anyone, you haven't done anything wrong. Um, yeah, it definitely helps.
So was it more of an ego bruise or that made you feel so bad, or is it more what are other people gonna say, that kind of thing? Because as
Yeah,
humans, that's what we worry about for some stupid reason, and no one cares really,
a,
apart from
a, a bit a bit of both. I have a sister who's a doctor, so whenever you have a younger sister who's sort of further down the line than you, and she's doing something like medicine, um, I suppose that's something that's crossing your mind, thinking, how come she's able to go and do that, and you're dropping out of a supposedly easier course, but the the ego's definitely going to take a hit, and then it is, yeah. I think, I think most things people do in life, there's a part of what is such and such thinking as to why they're doing it. You know, for the same reason that I probably went to university because I didn't want to let anyone down, and it was seen as the norm to do. Then having to drop out of university whenever you thought in your head that all these people were thinking that you had to go in the first place.
It's a scam.
Um,
You know, it's a big scam, don't you?
you know what? And this is the older you get, the more experience you get, and you're able to actually take a step back and look at things. This is where I said about the tradesmen. Tradesmen aren't going to university coming out with, well, America, it's going to be possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. It's not as high in the UK, but at the end of the day, too, whenever you actually think to better yourself, to further improve your education, you're going to have to put yourself in a large amount of debt to do so. It's I'm not sure how you can describe that or even consciously recommend it to youngsters and children to do.
Yeah, I just think it's a big old scam nowadays. It is anyway. Hey, what have you learned about yourself as you mature?
Um, I would say that I am now very good at saying no to things and very good at not giving a damn effectively. Or in the past, I would have really worried about people's opinions and trying to impress people, but whereas now I've been able to like really, really cut out all the noise and realize that as a man, effectively, like, your main job is to basically take care of your family, and nothing else outside of that really matters in the grand scheme of things.
No, that's a really good attitude to have. So, with that said, if you could speak to a 15-year-old Darnell, what would you say to him?
I would say, yeah, don't worry about um, letting people down. Don't worry about trying to impress people. Do do what you want to do. Follow your path earlier, sooner, because I will hold my hands up and admit that I really didn't get my shit together in life until I was about 30 years of age. And a lot of that was down to just sort of not believing in yourself and believing, I suppose, the limitations that maybe some other people would have been putting onto you. Um, yeah, just like the greatest cliche ever for me is life is short,
Right.
and but it really 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 is, and I do think that as much as I'm in a good place now and happy with where I'm at, and I probably wouldn't change things for anything. I do also think to myself that if I had have been a little bit braver, say 10 years previous, I could probably be a lot further or more successful, let's say, than what I am now. Not maybe successful in regards to,
No, I understand. I understand. Be
yeah.
be where you'd want to be, or it's as though you wasted time. In other words, because you were frightened.
I definitely could have impacted more people. I definitely
Right.
could have impacted more people than I have now. If I had have done what I wanted to do sooner.
So, being in Ireland as a teenager, was there any influence? Drugs, gangs, and stuff like that in Ireland.
So, like if I think back to my group of friends whenever I was sort of 14, 15, 16, I was lucky that I was good at football and stuck to playing football because I essentially had a decision to make whenever I was 17 or so to basically keep playing football and progress on and try and sort of be as good as I could be at it, or stop playing football like a lot of ones do around that age group, and then it would have been a case of drinking, partying, doing whatever every weekend. Whereas staying at football helped me keep that discipline side of things. So, like, I am someone that would have been around drinking, drugs, all of the usual stuff that teenagers, kids can experience. But that's one thing I have to say about myself. I was always able to say no. I could have been the only person out of 10 people, 20 people not drinking, not doing drugs, but I never felt that sort of pressure, I suppose, to just join into the gang and be a sheep, as they say. But in terms
So,
of in terms of gangs, sorry to cut you off, but in terms of gangs, like the IRA was still a thing whenever I was growing up, and I would have had friends who went down that path as well. So
wow.
it very easy could have went a few different ways, yeah.
Wow. So, so your football career, so you actually went professional or was it semi-professional in Gaelic?
No, so this is the thing. Gaelic Games, GAA, it's a totally amateur sport. So the national stadium, Crow Park, holds 82,000 people. I think it's 82 or 86, 80 something thousand people. Um, and on a All Ireland final day, which is basically the two best teams in the country will play, and you will have 80 something thousand people who pay. So this year it was a hundred quid a ticket in to watch these two sets of teams play that are completely amateur and not getting any money whatsoever.
Wow.
So whenever you're playing Gaelic games in Ireland, it's more so just it's like a it's like a local sort of parish. We call them, and over here we call them parishes, where a parish is like, say, a small town or village, and every parish will have a church essentially. You have your parish priest. So most parishes will have one sort of football team, and then it becomes like those local parish rivalries will just play each other, and then I suppose where initially it might only be your own parish or town will know you for playing football, but as you play against these other ones, then you become more sort of known in your area.
Okay.
So there was never any professional or money or anything that like that involved, but um, it was definitely something that, without a doubt, had a massive influence on the sort of path that I would have took in life.
So I remember there was a time when you were working, I'm going to say for the civil service, I think for others, government or whatever.
Yeah.
So what made you pivot from that cube type boring job to get into fitness and sports and what you're doing now, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and how you're helping kids get off the sofa.
It literally just was a case of me being sort of 28, 29 and thinking to myself, where are you going here? What are you doing with your life? And a case of, if you don't do something now, if you don't make that jump, make that, just not a leap of faith, that's too corny to say, but literally just sort of get yourself out of your comfort zone and go and do something that you've wanted to do for a very long time. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at least you've said, yeah, at least you can say that you give it a go. Um, where yeah, it's just whenever you sort of, as a football coach. So I suppose I probably would have initially started whenever I was still playing football. I would have helped out and started coaching some of the underage teams, and always got that buzz from that. And then it was a case of whenever I stopped playing football, sort of 29ish, um, I would have stopped playing football, but I would have started going to the gym at 6 a.m. in the morning. But yet I would have struggled to get into work for 9 a.m. in the morning, but wouldn't have struggled to get up to the gym at 6 a.m. So whenever things like that are happening, you sort of tell yourself, this isn't normal. You're now effectively spending your life doing something you don't want to do, you don't in a place you don't want to be, and you have the opportunity to change that. No one's going to do it for you, but you have the opportunity to change that. So um, it was just a case of, right, let's just go and do this. And I did. I done it part time initially whenever I was still working in the office, to then eventually where I was building clients, and then I was able to then take another step and do it full time. So yeah, so I initially started out where I done just a personal training qualification, and from there never looked back really. And then again, this is where the football background comes into play, because from there then I went and done further um, like strength and conditioning qualifications, where I now will work partly with football teams, and then partly with private clients. And private clients can range from kids from 14 years of age to grown adults in their 50s and 60s.
Cool, cool. So, so now that you've got your business running, how are you advertising? How are you getting clients?
So initially, it would have been a lot of social media. It would have been Facebook, Instagram. Um, but unlike you, I'm actually quite poor with technology. It's not that I'm quite poor. I'm someone that if I need to learn something, I can follow instructions. I can read recipes and make meals from that. But um, I just would rather spend time socializing and communicating with someone face to face than putting too much time and effort into advertising on social media. So I'm pretty fortunate at this stage that it seems to be sort of word of mouth that gets me any sort of new clients or any new teams and stuff to work with. But definitely in the past, I would have had to advertise more and post more on Instagram and Facebook. Um, but I'm really poor at that now. I think people follow my fitness page but see more stuff or more posts about what I do with my daughter on the day out
Yeah.
than anything fitness related. But I suppose that's a privileged position to be in, that I don't have to constantly post to try and get more business. I definitely could get more business if I did do that, but I find a nice balance where unless I really have to, then I try and sort of stay off social media.
I think you should maybe consider, take my foolish advice, go to the university, find someone that's starting some media stuff and outsource it. You'll be shocked. Just getting someone that, because that's their job. You're doing the fitness
Yeah,
stuff, and find someone that just enjoys doing it. You know what I mean? So
I totally see where you're coming from. What I haven't looked at though is, so unless I really wanted to go down the online coaching business, now I do have a few online clients, and I do have the odd team that I work with online, but I have found that I just enjoy the personal aspect so much better and get so much more from it. So if I was, I'm at the point where I don't really have much more capacity for face to face personal training. So if I was going to do that, it's putting time and energy into something that I actually don't really want to do. And again, this is where I've been sort of good and got it better at, where maybe in the past I would have thought to myself, well, such and such is on Instagram and putting out all this information. You need to be doing that too. But I've got to the point where I am now able to really sort of just dial in on the things that I want to do and enjoy doing, um, and focus my energy more so on that.
Any thought of getting a mini me, someone that you can train to do a lot of what your fitness company is doing, but maybe you don't have time to do it, and you could train them so that they can help supplement your business and train them to be a mini you.
I've had a number of people work for me over the last few years. What I've found though, um, it's just, I don't want to tar all sort of um,
And I understand.
that generation with the same brush, but it's like the microwave society, I call it, where everyone wants everything now, and the some of the guys, and maybe I just haven't found the right person, but what I found is a lot of people get into my line of work for the wrong reasons. They think that they see it as this glamorous job because they maybe see a personal trainer out for a coffee at 11 o'clock during the day, but what they don't realize is that that personal trainer has been up from possibly 5:30 a.m.
Right, right.
They've worked 4 or 5 hours up to that point. They then have a few hours to themselves because they're then having to work from say 4 p.m. through to 8 or 9 in the evening. That's the one thing about this job, where you're working around other people's time and
Right.
schedules. So the guys that I've had working for me in the past, you're trying to explain to them this is an industry where not many people actually last more than a year in it. But if you're going to last more than a year and you really see yourself doing this long term, you know, ignore the people you see having a coffee at 11 or 12 o'clock. They've been up from 5:30 in the morning, and they may have been working until 10 o'clock the night before. Um, and that's where I find that it's nearly been just more hassle than what it's actually worth. That's not to say that I won't try and find someone again in the future, and try and sort of take a step back, but that's the experiences that I've had to date with the people that I have tried to sort of bring in and take on my wing, and have them sort of build that career for themselves.
How do you manage your mental health now?
Um, Again, I think I've just been pretty good at being able to recognize what's important, what's not important. I suppose that might be reading books. Like a while ago, I would have been into cold water therapy. So I don't know if you've seen much or heard much about it, but it's become sort of pretty big over the last number of years, where people are taking cold water plunges first thing in the morning or before they go to bed at night. And there's a lot of studies now coming off the back of this, and the sort of dopamine surges you're getting from the cold water.
Not black people.
Well, there you go. I suppose I'm I'm half black, but I'm in a white society pretty much.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that I will do that I will go over to my family in London and mention to them, and they look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny because you see some people swimming across some like ice lake, and you think to yourself, "Man, I can't even." I've been to places before, and if the water's too cold, I'm like, "Boy, I don't know if I'm gonna have a shower. If I'm gonna have a shower, that water's not gonna touch my back." You know what I mean?
I think exercise is the big one for me, where obviously Jade's my sister's a psychiatrist, and me and her will chat. There's only one proven remedy against poor mental health. I'm not going to say it solves all mental health issues, but exercise is one of the only things that has zero side effects, but studies have shown over and over and over again can help fight against poor mental health. Um, so as much as it's my job, and people will say, "Oh, you're just saying that because that's how you make your living," genuinely, the amount of times where you really don't want to do a workout, but you do it. Never will you finish your workout and say, "Oh, I regret doing that." It will always be, "I didn't want to do that, but I'm so glad that I did." Just from the benefits you get from it.
No, that's good. That's good. So, do you watch what you eat now? How do you stay, keep the your stomach from getting like most people your age now that drink, 4 or 5 pints Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Um, so again, so that's probably something that I've done less and less of over the last number of years, where I'm not really a big drinker. If I am gonna go out, I will let my hair down, and I'll let loose, but it would be definitely few and far between. I think the baby has definitely had an impact on that, where it's just not worth the hangovers when you have to get up and look after a baby, regardless of how badly you're feeling. I just have a very simple rule in regards to, if I feel my trousers and my clothes feeling a little bit tighter, then I'll cut back and I'll try and do a little bit more exercise. I definitely have one of the sweetest teeth you can imagine. Like, the amount of rubbish I eat is not normal, but I, in fairness, usually don't eat breakfast, and I find that by not eating breakfast, that then allows me to have that little bit of crap, to have that bit of chocolate later on throughout the day.
Right.
Um, I'll track my steps, so that's really the two sort of main things. I would say not having breakfast and tracking my daily steps, and then after that, just paying attention to your clothes and not trying to fool yourself and thinking that they've been shrunk in the wash.
Okay. Hey, I've got 3 more questions for you. Are you a hoarder?
I am absolutely not a hoarder. My wife is a hoarder. I am not. So I'm someone that, if I go shopping for clothes, for example, I will come home, I will go into the wardrobe, I will look at clothes, and if I haven't worn it in the last, say, 6 months, it's coming out and it's going into the charity shop, and whatever new stuff I've got will replace it. Outside of that, I don't even know what I would have to hoard as such, but I do try and put as much things into charity. I try and make sure that people get as much benefit out of things that I don't use. So yeah, I can categorically state I am not a hoarder.
Nice, nice. Um, that's it's really good that you're going down the charity shop with your old stuff. Is there um is there anything you should do today or right now that you're not doing? So, for example, is there a phone call? Is there something that you could do that you're abstaining from doing? Anything at all? Because I think it's human nature. So, for example, I have a habit wherein I'm always supposed to call my parents. Obviously, I live away from my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and I keep on procrastinating, and I blame the the time zone. Or could it be exercise? I don't know. Is there anything that you is there anything that you can do today that will make your tomorrow better?
it probably is going to be what you said there, just calling someone, calling a family member.
Calling people.
I'm a massive procrastinator as well, by the way. I think I probably have got ADD. This has become now a running joke in our family because so Jade, who's a psychiatrist, only got diagnosed with having ADD like a couple of years ago by her boss in work. Cleo, the younger sister, has been diagnosed years and years ago. And then there's me sort of stuck in the middle where I'm undiagnosed, but I'd say that I probably do have um, some form of it. But yeah, I would say that if anyone said that they don't have anything to do that would make their life better, they're definitely lying. Do I have to tell you it?
No, 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 no. I'll have to say this to you though. You know, I run around, or I've reacquainted myself with some friends that have known me from I was 9 and 10 years old, and I always had problems at school with my behavior and stuff like that. The teacher used to say I had heebie-jeebies or whatever, but it just meant I couldn't focus, never could. And I think, you know, we because I grew up in the 70s, obviously, we got our ass kicked a lot. You know, your dad would take off the leather strap, or your older brothers would give you a kick in. But I think a lot of us do have ADHD. Some of us have just figured out a way how to get around. You know, so for example, I use my reminders and everything on my
Yeah,
Apple devices. If I didn't do that, I'd be a basket case, you know.
yeah.
My last question to you, Darnell, is when you think about the future, are you hopeful?
Good question. I think we're probably in a generation where there's never been as many opportunities to essentially do whatever you want to do in life. But I also think that we're probably in a time period that it hasn't been as soul destroying in a number of ways. You know, when you look at what's going on in Palestine and Gaza right now at this current moment in time, when you look at, you know, possibly Donald Trump getting back into the White House and how sort of his presidency ended the last time, there does seem to be a bit of a radicalism on both sides sort of growing at this moment in time. You know, um, I'm hopeful because I think from my own experiences, you know, being someone who's been different and in a country or in a place that not didn't have to accept me, but whenever I see how sort of well accepted and adopted I was into Armagh, then I have to be hopeful for my kids and for myself. But I am also worried. I'm hopeful, but I am also worried in ways too.
That's nice. That's nice. Hey, I'm really glad that you gave me the time to have a chat with you. These are all questions I wanted to ask you, and this platform has given me this opportunity. By the way, you look tired as hell, but you were probably up 4 o'clock this morning. What time did you get up this morning?
This morning was 6:30. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that's as if Ava hasn't woke us up beforehand. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my alarm goes at 5:30. Tuesday, Thursday, it goes at 6:30. Um, but as I say, we're currently in a time period where Ava will probably wake up once or twice a night, anywhere between 12 and 2 a.m. So, but that's life,
Yep.
and you know the question you asked me before we come on was, is it worth it? And did you ever think that you would give your life away to someone? And you don't think about these things, but you also
Fatherhood is amazing, eh?
it is without a shadow of a doubt. And this isn't saying everyone go and become a father, but it's without a doubt it's the best thing you'll ever. It's the best thing. It's what we're put on the planet for.
Yeah, but it's like having your heart beating outside your body. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Because of that constant worry. And I didn't like that because at times, the way I worry about my kids now and they're grown, I just hope my parents don't do likewise. But maybe they do. You know what I mean? And it's weird.
I think I think if you do your job properly, then that's how you're always going to feel, isn't it?
Wow, wow, yeah, powerful. Anyway, change that smoke detector. Yeah, yeah. Because everybody in the world's gonna hear it now, okay? But I'm just letting you know, yeah. Everybody notices it, okay? Yeah, yeah. So it's a ladder and a 9-volt battery, my brother.
Do you want to know something? I changed. There's three in our hallway, and I changed one 2 days ago. This is clearly one of the other ones that is now beeping away. So
So apparently you change all of them because the batteries, if they were all done at the same time, when one goes, they're all gonna start going.
see,
Yeah,
that's the engineer in you. That's
there
the
you go.
engineer in you thinking outside the box.
Yeah. Anyway, Darnell, thank you very much, man, and I really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with me, man. I really enjoyed this.
Always a pleasure, sir.
All right, man.